What did you do after Parker?
After Parker, I went to Alabama State.
Why Alabama State?
Oh, that's the story of my life. I had all dreams. I had all my mother working. Remember that. This is war years. Just at the end of the war, because I'm talking about 45 and what World War II was over in May or June 45. So I'm looking real hard to try to get in somebody's college. I had written Tuskegee. They had a 5-year plan where you could work way at Tuskegee on a 5-year plan. And I said I was going to be a dietitian. That sounds like a big word, you know. I'm going to be a dietitian. I'm going to Tuskegee. And dietitian, big word. But that was the first year that Alabama State offered us statewide scholarship testing to find out who was the best scholar in the state of Alabama. So President Trenum launched a testing program that touched every senior high school in Alabama. And all of the students who took the test, if they scored highly, they had scholarships, and they could go to Alabama State.
Full scholarship?
Full scholarships, hard scholarships, depending on your rank.
Right.
So when they came to Parker, they chose the seniors in the top 10 bracket among the graduating class. And I was chosen, and I always remember the math teacher tried to keep me out. He said I wasn't smart enough, my grades were not good enough in geometry, so I shouldn't be qualified to take the test.
Oh, is that right? So he tried to keep you from taking the
yes.
test?
Yes, he was here on the testing. And Otto Wyatt, and I'm saying this because most people in Birmingham know the teachers Otto Wyatt and Dessa Harris Ray insist on my being there.
Oh, okay.
And it's through my history teacher and my English teacher that I got a chance to take the statewide test. And I scored high enough to get a scholarship to Alabama State. And all my dreams to Tuskegee went to the wind then because I had a scholarship.
And you were probably very excited about that.
I was.
What was that transition like then from high school to college? Was this
I
your
was the first time away from home, and very different. Had to adjust to dormitory life, and very strict at that time to get lights out on campus and all of that. So I took it in a stride because I really wanted to go to college. So I didn't have a hard time with adjusting. I was fortunate enough to get a job, work scholarship in the high school office because I had worked in high school offices previously. So they just placed me in the high school office.
And what was your major?
I came out with a double major, I guess. I need to look at my transcript sometime. I don't know whether I have more hours in history or English, but I was a history, English major, secondary education.
Well, did you enjoy that time at Alabama State?
It was a learning experience, and I came out very excited, very confident. I felt like we had one of the best curriculums that any college could have offered. I always admired my president. Trenum was a brilliant man. He worked night hours, 12, 1 o'clock, you could see President office lights burning. But he was a lover of academics. And I always feel so grateful to him, especially for the course that was required of freshmen. We took what was called a biosocial class and an integrated arts class required of all freshmen. You had 18 hours and 21 hours of one and 18 hours of the other. And it was kind of like a survey of all of the science and a survey of all of the arts. And of course,
And all that was required.
that was required. And it most certainly exposed you at an early age to the various facets of education. And even today, I fall back on some of the knowledge required from those classes. So I came out of Alabama State fairly, a little bit cocky, you know.
It was known for its music as well.
Music and teaching, you know, a lot of teachers. It was a teacher college at first in music. I didn't pursue the music. I told you I found out I couldn't sing. I didn't go to Dr. Hall. You had to go to choir rehearsal. It was too strenuous anyway. It took a lot of time for choir rehearsals. Of course, I was not band inclined. But the music department was good, and especially with Dr. Hall and Jessica Dallas Hayden and all those names.
So after state, did you come back home?
Came back home, started looking for a job.
Did you find one immediately?
No, I had to go to a small town where one of my good friends lived. In fact, I just didn't wait long enough. First come, first served. Remember, I was a poor girl looking for a job in a hurry. So I talked to you about town.
Where?
Fayette, Alabama.
This was probably just before the Brown versus Board of Education decision.
Yes.
And then you came back here. Where did you teach first in
Alderman High School.
Oh, you talking about Alderman?
Yes.
What was that like? Now, that's your alma mater.
Oh,
You're going back.
It was like heaven because I knew Dr. Bell so well. See, I had worked in his office as a student. And then when I was in college, I had classes under him. He was a marvelous teacher. He taught me geography, and I learned so much, not only geographically, he was very philosophical. So many things I learned just off the wall.
So he taught at Alabama State?
He taught at Alabama State summer classes.
So then your return here to teach at Ullman, had that been a dream of yours to come back and be able to
I was just glad. I was just so glad. I was happy.
Yeah.
I really was.
Yeah.
Especially to be at Ullman with Dr. Bell, because he had been my principal. And I felt like I just knew him, you know, as a high school student.
So were you there at Ullman then when, in '54 when Brown versus Board took place?
Yes, I was.
Did that have any impact upon what was taking place at Ullman? Were there any discussions about what that meant to education, black education in Birmingham?
It really didn't hit home too hard. Not, you know, we talked about it, we read about it, maybe had news articles on it, but it didn't have any definite impact. We didn't foresee the, you know, the coming. And yet, I think once Arthurine Newsom went to Alabama, that brought it closer. And it became kind of a fascinating subject then.
Were you a voter at that time?
I was a voter.
Do you remember when you took your voting test?
Yes, I do.
What was that like?
I didn't go through all of the silly questions that some of the people were asked. It was strictly constitutional questions. And of course, the most interesting thing about it is Dr. Patton always managed to get the exam. And he had on Xerox and just studied and studied. And after I became a registered voter, then I conducted voter registration classes where we taught other people how to vote.
Were you a member of the NAACP?
I was a member of the NAACP. Sure was.
In 1956, when the organization was outlawed from operating in the state.
I was not as active, but I was, card carrying member.
Right. And I'm sure there were many teachers who were card carrying members. I know
That's
my
right.
aunt was a card carrying member, but she didn't really attend any meetings, but she paid her dues every
Yeah.
year and was supportive in that way. But it was rather dangerous to be a member of the NAACP in terms of I guess the powers that be, knowing that was that true or not?
No. Never felt the threat of the danger, even at Alabama State, because I was surrounded by persons who were, especially some of my professors that were ardent members of the NAACP. And,
Well, after it was outlawed from operating in the state, and the Alabama Christian movement was organized, were you at all involved with that phase of the movement? I know you would be involved later on, but in those initial days when...
no, was not involved, not a member. As you know, the Alabama Christian movement was almost church-based.
Right.
It grew out of the ministers, young ministers, a few old ministers.
Right.
And my minister was not a part of it. And so, being a follower of him, or read more or less by his church philosophy, if you want to call it that, I didn't join. I didn't become a part of it.
Were you still living in your same neighborhood?
Living in East Birmingham. But the impact was so great from the Alabama Christian movement that people started setting up smaller groups. Now in East Birmingham, under Dr. Patton and some more of the ministers, that's where we started this voting clinic. We called it a civic league.
Right.
And we became very civic-minded because of the impact of the Christian movement.
Okay.
So since we were not in that big circle of that mainstream, we had our own little civic league out there.
How did the civic leagues operate?
It operated primarily for improving the community, if necessary. But we were basically interested in getting people to vote.
Okay.
And we held voting clinics every Wednesday night throughout the neighborhoods. And we found those people, and that was an experience because I was never aware, maybe I should say I had no awareness of how many people that I had grown up under that could not read and write. And these were the people that were pretty much neighborhood role models,
Right.
homeowners, and nice dresses, and money-paying people in the church and all this.
But they
But
could not read
They
and write.
couldn't read and write, and I was astounded because I was not aware of the limitations.
All right.
But they would come, and then also those who were interested, the older people, we sat down and went over just like you would with a child, and we got them ready for all of the tricky questions. And that question about how old is your oldest child? And you would answer, and then especially for the men or the ladies, and then they would ask you, when did you marry? And you would tell them when you married. If that child was born out of wedlock, they would not qualify you. Oh,
That would actually disqualify you.
that would disqualify you. That's so we had to keep pounding that in the heads of those persons going down. And the highlight of that civic league in East Birmingham was Rosa Parks spoke, and I introduced her.
Oh, is that right?
We had a church field all outside. She was the lady of the hour, and the church could hold the people.
What church?
That was St. Luke AME Zion Church in East Birmingham. That's where we had our anniversary program. We invited Rosa Parks as guest speaker, and she came.
Is that right?